Hey, what's up, guys? I'm the Power Coach Martize. I'm the go-to guy to help you get your body fit as well as your love life. You see, I'm a trainer for the last 15 years and relationship coach for the last 8 years. I'm here to help people create this legacy of love and health. Today's topic is, why do some relationships fail? My opinion is the lack of emotional maturity. You see, we got immaturity and maturity. Let's talk about the emotional maturity. When you are mature emotionally, you're able to articulate what exactly that you feel whenever you are triggered. Those triggers, we all have them, where you get upset or something your partner might have said or did that kind of hits that wound. You know what I'm talking about. Those feelings of not feeling heard, not feeling loved. And if we do our homework, if we do the self-work, I should say, we'll find out that those wounds are connected to some insecurity, and that insecurity is rooted in fear. So the ability to articulate what exactly that you're feeling to your partner, in my opinion, is the perfect example of emotional maturity. Now, on the flip side of that, the emotional immaturity is when we tend to have these emotional reactions whenever we are triggered. For example, like a child, whenever you take a piece of candy or a toy from a child, or that child isn't getting what they want, what do? They fall out, they have a whole tantrum, and they're having an emotional reaction. They're crying, they're yelling. Oh, yeah, we all seen the kid in the grocery store that mom tells them no, and they just fall all out in the grocery store. Well, unfortunately, some of us grown people are doing the same exact thing in our relationship, which ultimately allows a disconnection between the two. Sometimes you're able to overcome this disconnection and resume the relationship, but sometimes that disconnection is the last time you all disconnect, because at the end of the day, we only can deal with so much disconnection before that relationship tends to get weak. For example, I have a client, which I won't say his name for the sake of this video, but let's just use the names Adam and Eve. All right, that's pretty broad. Adam and Eve. Adam was dating Eve for about 4 or 5 months, and they were hitting it off. They were beginning to fall in love, doing a lot of planning for the future, trips. I believe she met his mom, and he was about to meet her mom. And I say all that to say is that the relationship recently ended because of a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, so he thought. But after we talked, we were able to quickly realize that because she was triggered, and instead of responding with logic, she reacted with her emotions. And she cut off the relationship or ended the relationship. Now, I want to talk about both Adam and Eve, but let's dive into Eve's emotional reaction. She felt misunderstood, or she felt, in this case, she felt abandoned. You see, Adam was supposed to show up in her mind. He was supposed to show up in her time of need. However, Eve never expressed that she needed him. Her expectations of him as the man in her life was supposed to already know to be there in her time of need. However, when you have expectations, oftentimes when they're not met, we're disappointed. In this situation, not only was she disappointed, it may have been a trigger that she has never dealt with, and that she felt abandoned, or she felt a lack of self-worth. We'll play around with those in a second, but her reaction caused a disconnection because she ended the relationship based on this trigger or this misunderstanding. But now let's dig into the reason why she was so quick to cut off a relationship that she obviously, I don't know both sides of the story, but if you're dating someone for a few months, there's maybe some connection there. You're planning trips and you're meeting parents. I can only imagine it being somewhat of an emotional attachment that's growing there. But the minute we are triggered, see, our relationships are great in the beginning. You see, those first 3 to 6 months, maybe longer for some, but when that first or that partner experienced their first trigger, then that would then, it can then dictate how this relationship will move forward. You see, once someone is triggered, that's the test of the relationship. How are you showing up when you are triggered? Do you react? Do you get upset? Do you get mad? Or do you shut down? If you're doing anything other than speaking or talking about what it is you feel, that's the lack of emotional maturity. You see, kids aren't able to articulate exactly what they feel. You ever ask a 2-year-old, why are you crying? Oftentimes, they're not able to tell you exactly why they're crying. So, as an adult, sometimes if we're not careful, if we haven't done our work, our childhood trauma has never been addressed, we tend to carry that same attitude into our relationships, where we're not, how I'm trying to say, we're not able to, or we're not comfortable with being vulnerable enough to express what it is that we feel. Instead, it's a lot easier, it's a lot painless to have a reaction. And sometimes that reaction is sometimes, for some people, that's exactly what we're looking for, a reaction from our partner based on our reaction. You, you, going back to the kid scenario, when that kid falls out and cries, oftentimes you see parents give in to what it is that they want. So subconsciously, it's like, oh, if I act out, if I cry, I can get what I want. So we must be careful in our relationships. When a partner is having an emotional reaction, it could be exhibiting their place in the relationship. And what I mean by that is that there can be a sense of controlling how the relationship should move forward here on out. If they don't feel that they can control it, oftentimes they may leave the relationship. But if they get what they want, now they're setting the tone for the rest of the relationship and how it will work. In this case, Eve, although she broke off the relationship and Adam is pleading to get her back, but Eve is set. Eve was hurt that he didn't show up in her time of need. So her reaction was to cut off the relationship. Now, in my opinion, that's the emotional immaturity that has allowed so many relationships and marriages to disconnect and end. Now, here's a tip on how you can maintain your relationship is to decrease the emotions by being more logical. I have this saying that it's hard to be both logical and emotional at the same time. Because once you start to think and ask questions, it ultimately de-escalates the emotion. Here's what I mean. In this case, before she reacted, have a conversation to find out, why weren't you available in my time of need? And more importantly, if you really want that connection to strengthen, I will remind you, as I remind myself, that we must become very vulnerable with our partners in order for that relationship to grow. What I mean by that is having a conversation about exactly why I am hurt. Why do I feel abandoned when you did not show up in my time of need? Having that dialogue, having that conversation will open up so many doors and ultimately have a much stronger impact on the relationship in regards to you guys connecting on a deeper level. So that's when the emotional maturity kicks in at. Being able to articulate not only that you are hurt, but to take it a step further, why you are hurt. And this isn't easy. It takes time, kind of like a muscle. When we're talking about emotional strengths, we can't help but to compare it to the physical strength. Now, being a personal trainer, I see people build up their muscle, build up their strength, and they come in not as strong, with not much endurance, but over time, if you continue to work on a certain muscle, it gets stronger, it gets stronger, and it gets stronger, and now you're able to, I guess, take on more resistance. Now, let's compare that to the emotional muscle. Now, it's not easy to not react because that's what we're used to as kids. So you're an adult now. You're a fully grown adult. You have a job. You have degrees. Some of you have families and houses and businesses. Yet you're still having reactions just like you were when you were a kid. Now, I encourage you to do some work and allow yourself to show up as your best version by using what God gave you. It's the ability to think. Take a second, allow your emotions to calm down, and ask yourself the question, what is it do I feel and why? I guarantee you, if you do your own self-work, you will allow yourself to have your emotions de-escalated, and then you're able to show up as your best version and be able to articulate what it is you feel. Now, on the flip side of that, I will strongly challenge you to ask the questions to your partner. In this case, Eve was in a position where she felt hurt, I felt a trigger. Instead of reacting, I would challenge her to have a conversation with Adam and ask the question, why weren't you there when I needed you? I felt abandoned. I felt hurt. It reminded me when, a past relationship, or it reminded me when my dad wasn't there, when I needed him, when I was competing in my gymnastics, whatever, you know what I mean? But you guys get my point. We must become vulnerable, and we must be able to express those emotions logically and respond as an adult, as opposed to reacting as a kid. I hope this was helpful, because at the end of the day, we want to connect with our partners, not disconnect. I'm the Power Coach Martize. Hit the like, hit subscribe, follow. I got a lot more content I want to share with you guys. Follow me on Instagram at the Couples Corner 8.2, where we're helping couples create a legacy of love and health. Thank you.